had no business with a knife, and you had no business doing what you were doing in the first place. So how is it fair that this kid's life is completely gone forever and you get to live because somebody feels sorry for you? Well, I feel sorry for the kid that died.
Tell us more about the surveillance video, because your notes on this were very interesting. What were you able to see? And then I also understand there was a reaction from the victim's family.
The narrative that we've heard from the beginning since April of 2025, that Karmelo Anthony was under that tent for no good reason. He was just there, and then Austin Metcalf and his friends came up to approach him to say, get out from under the tent, to which Karmelo Anthony, the prosecution says, got aggressive, reached in that bag, pulled out a knife, and stabbed Austin Metcalf.
You cannot stab someone in the chest and kill them because they touch you. I think a lot of what this case is going to come down to is going to remind us of what happened in the O.J. Simpson case. The race card is going to be played.
Let me tell you something. Secrets have a way of coming out. You could bury them, act like they never happened, but eventually the truth shows up. And that's what The Secret Between Us on Angel is about. This film follows a man everybody thinks have everything together. He's admired and respected, but then an unexpected visitor shows up at his front door and everything starts to unravel. Years of pain, betrayal, unanswered questions, and now a father and son have to face the truth and decide if healing is still possible. This is a story about family, forgiveness, and redemption, and what happens when people stop hiding and start telling the truth. Films like this are why I love Angel. They tell stories that show the brokenness, but they don't leave you stuck in it. They point you right back to hope. Stream The Secret Between Us right now on Angel, share it with your friends and family, and join the Angel Guild so more stories like this can be made. This is Karmelo Anthony's updates in the trial, okay? Let's be very quick. Roll it.
A jury has been chosen to decide the closely watched murder trial of Karmelo Anthony.
More than 500 people were on the list of potential jurors, but the jury will not include anyone who is black, despite this case being racially charged. Fox 4's Alex Boyer joining us now. Alex.
Hey guys, good evening. That's right. And I can tell you that a court spokesperson confirmed that there are indeed no black jurors on this panel. And I can tell you that before this jury panel was seated, the defense objected to 3 black women being struck by the prosecution. Now, the prosecution contended that it was due to the fact that the women were educators, noting that this incident happened at a school function with young students. The defense then pointed out that those were three of those were 100% of the available black jurors in what's called the strike zone, adding that the state struck all 3. The judge went out and reviewed their questionnaires and came back and said that the defense's challenge to the 3 jurors being dismissed was denied. The judge said the court found that the state had non-racial means to strike the juror.
So, you live in Frisco, Texas. This is in Plano, Frisco. The amount of black people living in Plano, Frisco is very small. So when you start to get a jury of your peers, it's not a lot of black people that live there anyway. So you're not going to get a lot of black jurors. The argument that it's a problem because there's no black jurors is an argument of a person who's a racist. Because to be quite honest, white people sometimes advocate more aggressively for black people than black people do. And these white people that carry this, what we call white guilt. And they want to be a white savior. So sometimes these white people are more radical to support black people when they shouldn't, more so than black people are willing to support black people when they shouldn't. So just because everybody's white don't mean that necessarily it's a biasy, unless you're a racist and you believe that every white person can't be impartial when it comes to stuff. That's silly to me. But some people have been still making that argument. Let's get to Karmelo's defense plan and roll it.
The defense strategy is already clear.
Self-defense is a protection that applies to each and every one of us.
Explain your self-defense. Karmelo Anthony's defense attorney, Mike Howard, asked the public to not rush to conclusions before hearing all the evidence surrounding the deadly confrontation between Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf.
This is a tragedy all the way around for both families. Rushing to judgment, trial by public perception and trial by media is not how we ensure justice is done.
Legal expert Keith Harris says the defense has to show why the jury should consider self-defense. According to the arrest affidavit, Metcalf was unarmed, while Anthony brought a knife to a track meet.
I think that's ultimately going to be something that a jury also considers as to whether or not he even should have had it to begin with.
Police say the confrontation began when it was raining and Anthony sat under the tent where Metcalf and his team were sitting. Police say Metcalf asked Anthony to move from under the tent. Officer Taylor Wetzel wrote in an affidavit that a witness told him Anthony grabbed his bag, opened it, and warned Metcalf, "Touch me again and see what happens." Witnesses told police Metcalf then touched or grabbed Anthony while trying to move him, and Anthony allegedly pulled out a knife, stabbed Metcalf once in the chest. Metcalf's twin brother, Hunter, was standing next to him.
We asked him to move. He started getting aggressive and talking reckless. And my brother stepped in and said, "You need to move." He's like, "Make me move." Austin grabbed his backpack.
Harris says those facts could become critical for jurors.
The prosecution could say that he was kind of asking for it. I think the flip side for the defense, when you think about it, these are 17-year-old boys. And I was 17 at one point in time. And so you think about 17-year-old boys don't make the best decisions.
In an arrest affidavit, Officer Eduardo Cortez said, "As we were walking him, Anthony, to the squad car, the suspect was emotional and said, 'He put his hands on me. I told him not to.'" Another officer later wrote, "Anthony made another spontaneous statement and asked if what happened could be considered self-defense." Harris says those statements are important because they may help Anthony's attorneys get self-defense in front of a jury.
If the officers testify to what he told them as soon as they got there, that's going to be the scintilla of evidence that defense would need to get self-defense in the charge.
As a defense attorney, they're going to try every avenue. That's their job. The truth will come out.
Under Texas law, once self-defense is raised, prosecutors must disprove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Harris says the defense may argue Anthony reacted emotionally and impulsively in the heat of the moment.
We believe in the Constitution. We believe in the laws of...
This is the thing that I said before that put icing on the cake. I don't know how the trial is going to end up going, but I think that once you pull a knife out on a person who does not have a weapon and you say, "Touch me again and see what happens," therefore you have now created premeditation. Because you could just move, but you don't want to move, and you're creating a scenario where you are not trying to avoid a situation. You have a deadly weapon, and now you're going to use it. Somebody grabbing you is not deadly force. Somebody pushing you is not deadly force. So if you're going to use deadly force against somebody, it needs to be comparable. That means that you need to have a threat of deadly force in order for you to use a deadly weapon against somebody. If you have no threat of deadly force and you're welcoming somebody by saying, "Touch me again and see what happened," and then you go to kill that person, now you're in trouble for premeditation. And I'm sad for both of the boys. You know, I really am sad for Karmelo. If the other boy didn't die, I would think that they would give Karmelo another opportunity to let him do some rehabilitation, maybe see why he's so angry, why is he carrying a knife. But since the other kid died, man, it's kind of hard to give you any leeway, man. You killed somebody. And you had no business with a knife, and you had no business doing what you were doing in the first place. So how is it fair that this kid's life is completely gone forever and you get to live because somebody feels sorry for you? Well, I feel sorry for the kid that died. And all he was doing was telling you to get from under his tent that belonged to him. And he died as a result.